You've been through 1,000. I know, right? That you had pulled out 1,000 times. And he goes, I was so impressed that you were so humble to look that up. And to say, I don't know, but we'll find out. We'll find the answer. And he goes, that's why I hired you. You're never too humble. You're never too arrogant to look something up and to know the answer. I thought that was really Jerry, you know, to say we don't know all the answers, but we're looking and we're searching. And he was really an intellectual, and I appreciate that about him.
And you know why you were hired is we went through the books and we picked out all the plants that we love. And I swear to God, you incorporated every single one of them. It's just amazing.
And you guys had divergent goals, and we were pulling this together, and they called a marriage counselor, and it's nice to see all your goals and all your dreams come together. And you know, when the builder said, I'll take care of this slope that goes down toward the pool and empties into it, I wrote it down, and I documented it, because I went like, well, when is that going to happen, and I'll take care of it. So when push came down to shove, we went like, well, what are we going to do about this slope? The builder didn't really address it, and I said, well, you have three alternatives. We can put retaining walls, and it won't look all that great, and it's going to cost a lot of money, or we can put solid riprap, which would be super cheap and super ugly, or we can do this thing where we create these nature trails where the water splashes out of these canali and comes down and stays a little bit in the ground and feeds water to the plants and does its thing, and it never makes its way to the pool because mud and pools don't mix. And so it was this great thing, and the day the boulders got delivered, Betty said, Shelley, no. This is not a big pile of boulders, and we can't have this. And I said, well, we're not putting in a pile of boulders, we're distributing them. And I said, I'll work with the crew. So it was one of the first times this particular crew had worked with me on this type of project. And we just placed all these stones. If you look up, there's all these ways to keep the plants happy and to keep the water from going into the pool. And Betty said, wow, when we got done, she goes, I like that. That looks great. Let's put that everywhere. So there's ways to do things and there's ways to not do things. And I think Jerry thought of this as his hiking trail. He thought it looked like a hiking trail when we got done, which is why we called this Camino Arizona. I don't know if you guys know, we won an International Design Award with this one, which is really an accomplishment because that is a very high order. So
He loved this backyard.
he did. He really did. And he loved the Arizona Trail, which is right out there. And he loved that thought of going between countries and jumping onto this trail and going into Mexico and going up to Canada. And I mean, that's really what the Arizona Trail's about. And I just salute you guys for being such a great couple. I mean, Betty was really a huge, huge part of Jerry's life. And I really celebrate that in you. And here's to you.
Charles, let me say something real quick.
Sure.
I noticed the theme here is Jerry being intellectual, which he is. There's no denying that, but I just want to tell a story that I don't know that I was allowed to tell before that, because if he knew I told it, he'd probably beat me down. But he used to take me fishing when we were in Colorado, and we went fishing one day, and we had a yellow canoe, and we'd go out in the canoe, and this little lake, and we'd go fishing, and one day, I don't know, for some reason, he didn't like where I was sitting, and he wanted to sit where I was sitting, and so he sit where he's sitting, and he said, he said, hey, I want to sit where you're sitting. I said, well, I don't think we're supposed to stand up in a canoe. And he's like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, it's okay, it's stable. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to stand up in a canoe. He's like, no, it's okay, we can switch. I'm like, okay, I just want to let you know, I don't think we're supposed to stand up. It's not that stable, you know. He's like, no, it's okay, it won't tip over, I was like, okay. I said, okay, but we got all this stuff in here. If it tips over, we're going to lose all this stuff. It's going to sink. He's like, no, don't worry about it. We're fine. So I said, okay. You know, he's my stepdad, right? I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? I was probably, I don't know, 16, 15 at the time. You don't argue, right? So sure enough, I stand up as we're trying to slip over. Sure enough, boom. So the canoe tips over, all of our fishing gear into the lake. Half of it sinks.
Oh, no.
And we're floating because we had life jackets on. He was responsible like that. So we had life jackets on. We're floating in the lake. And I said, and I didn't want to say I told you so. I was a little afraid. You know, so I'm floating, and I'm like, okay. Now what? You're the intellectual. What do we do now? He's like, don't worry. I'll turn it over. So we actually, believe it or not, we flip the canoe up and we get back in the canoe and we kind of, you know, gather all of our gear and throw it back in the canoe. And he's like, okay, you don't say a word. Not a word. Not a word. I'm like, okay, we're gonna be. Well, I hope we're dry by the time we get home. So, just to counteract that intellectual, he was an incredibly intellectual man, but sometimes common sense. There was a little disconnect there. That's what happens when your IQ is super high. I think there's occasionally a little bit of disconnect. But Jerry, I apologize. I swear to God, I wasn't going to tell this story, but I have. But I think you would enjoy it now.
But here's my question: did you guys end up in the right seats when you got back to the canoe?
We did, and actually we caught like, I don't know how many rainbow trout that day. So he was correct. It was a good day.
I kind of have a similar story. We were hiking in Madeira Canyon, and it was when you guys were having the house built.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, but you were doing something.
I was sick.
That was, we left you.
We
left you and went hiking.
He went shooting away with my
So,
husband.
we went hiking in
That's
Madeira
Jerry.
Canyon.
He loved it.
And we got on this trail, and it says, trail closed. There, the trail's closed. Oh, don't worry about it. I've been on it before. But it does say closed, you know, same kind of thing. So about, what, half a mile later, I fall and break my arm because the trail was not safe. But I wasn't going to say, it's not safe, let's go back. And I'm going to miss him. He was a great hiking buddy.
And I got this phone call that says, we're in the ER.
Yeah.
Oh, and I said, what happened to Jerry? She said,
Oh,
not Jerry, me.
it's even worse. So we're sitting in the ER, and I'm like, oh my God, Jerry, I gotta pee, and I've only got one arm. If they don't come pretty soon, I'm gonna have to have you unzip my pants, and I'm gonna have to. And then finally, we're waiting, and I said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. If they don't call us pretty soon, we're gonna go over to my office at the U of A, and we're gonna call 911, and we're going in an ambulance because this is ridiculous. But we got out of here, and yeah, I don't know how long
It took
us.
all
pretty much.
day.
And I
I'm
think
sitting
it was
home sick, and you're
Thanksgiving, right? It was
Hey Betty, do you remember when you and Jerry were coming up to visit us, and I told you guys I was going to make your special breakfast, and then when remember Tracy?
Yes.
and when you showed up, I told Jerry what we were going to have. We're going to have ham and fried apples and eggs and this and that and the other. And Jerry said, "Oh, Harry, I can't eat that stuff. I'm on a diet. I can't eat that." You remember? Do you remember, Betty?
Yes.
And it hurt my feelings. Yeah, because I thought I was doing something really good. I know, but I made it anyway. And he tore it up. and he complimented me. "Harry, this is so flavorful. The combination of this and that and this and that." I mean, it was hilarious.
He was quite a guy.
I have one in the vein of the hiking stories and the gregarious nature of my dad. And this is from the trip that's in that picture there where he's standing at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. For his 70th birthday, Scott and I accompanied him on a hike from down to the bottom of the canyon. We spent his 70th birthday camping out in the bottom. And the plan was a day hike down, a day resting at the bottom, and a day back up. And Scott and I had flights out the following day. And so we had a beautiful time, and we took that picture of him posing down there. That he was very proud of that picture. But then for those of you that hike the canyon, it's a long hike. It's not an easy hike. So the day we're leaving, we wake up at the crack of dawn, break down the tents, and we had to take our stuff over to put on the mules to go back up, and then we had our packs. So we probably hit the trail like as early as you could as when the sun came up, And we're hiking, and then Dad, in his usual way, starts talking to every person who passed. Chit chat. How are you doing? What trail did you take? How long did it take you to get here? Are you spending the night? You know, did you stay at the Phantom Ranch? On and on, like every single person. And you know, pretty soon our plan of how long it's going to take us to hike out of this canyon is getting way behind. And then we rested about halfway up.
I think Baby Streak and White one.
Yeah. And then the toughest part is really that last bit, you know, because you're so tired and you can see the top, but it takes forever to get there, right? And we're hiking and the sun's going down and it's getting cold. And finally Scott and I pulled him aside and we're like, Dad, you gotta stop talking to people. We are never gonna make it out of
Sociable though, you see?
And as it was, we were the very last people. We did not make it out of the canyon before the sun went down. The last like 2 miles were in the pitch dark with our headlamps. Oh my God! Trying to get to the top. But it took us 12 hours to hike.
Well, you said the reason he did that was that he wanted to rest.
On the rest?
He wanted to rest a little bit.
And chat. Don't forget.
He used the chatting as an excuse to rest. You guys used to do that on the trail when you guys hiked with him. Yeah.
As Betty said, he never met a person he didn't like.
No.
So is that it for a little input over here?
Okay, I went to Pakistan in 1975 and replaced Jerry on the Colorado State University project. Jerry went, at that time, Jerry and Betty were good friends.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Jerry went back to campus, and then Jane and I came out to Pakistan. Now, Jerry had worked with Ford Foundation in Pakistan before, and he had a Dodge Dart stored in a garage in Colorado, I think it was, not so. But when he started working on this project, he was with USAID funding, he was allowed to bring a vehicle. So Jerry brought this Dodge Dart to Pakistan.
Oh no.
And he drove it. Now that was a good car there, because they had Plymouth vehicles in India so you could get spare parts. Okay.